What if the man mopping the gym floor at night turned out to be the only Grandmaster you'd ever meet? That's exactly the secret 12-year-old Derek Johnson carried when he walked into the chess club tryouts at Jefferson Middle School, and nobody believed a word of it. The room smelled like chalk dust and old carpet, the buzz of fluorescent lights overhead making the silence heavier than it should have been. Coach Richard Coleman, with his white polo tucked tight into iron-creased slacks, stood at the front like a judge ready to pass sentence. "Welcome to chess club tryouts," he announced, voice sharp as his gray hair. "This isn't checkers, children. Chess requires intelligent strategy and refinement." Derek raised his hand, voice soft but steady. "Excuse me, sir. I'd like to try out." The coach's pale eyes swept over him, stopping on Derek's worn-out sneakers and the frayed strap of his backpack. A couple of kids chuckled. Ethan Wallace. The captain's favorite leaned back in his chair with a smirk that said everything. Son Coach Coleman drawled, "Do you even know what chess is? This isn't some street game. We're talking serious competition here." "My grandfather taught me," Derek replied, lifting his chin. That got a laugh out of nearly everyone in the room. Sarah, the blonde girl, with braces that gleamed under the lights, whispered loud enough for half the class to hear. Maybe he should try basketball instead. Derek's cheeks burned. He forced himself to say, "I've been playing since I was 6. I know the Sicilian, the Queen's Gambit." "Those are just names," Coleman cut him off, waving a dismissive hand. Chess is about seeing 10 moves ahead. About foundation, about breeding. This club isn't for everyone, especially not... Well, let's just say you'd be better off finding something more appropriate. It was like getting slapped in front of the whole room. The laughter followed him to the doorway as he turned to leave, whispering so quiet no one could hear. "You don't know who my grandfather is." Back home, the smell of his mama's cornbread usually lifted his spirits. Not that day. He dropped his bag on the floor, slumped into the couch, and when his mom asked how it went, all he could manage was, "He wouldn't even let me try." From the corner, his grandfather, Walter Johnson, looked up from the armchair. 70-years-old coveralls stained from a day fixing pipes at the very same school, eyes still sharp as broken glass. "What you mean he wouldn't let you?" he asked. Derek told the story, every laugh, every insult, every word about not being the right type. He finished with, "I told them, you taught me Papa." They just laughed harder. His grandfather leaned forward, knuckles pressed together, the ghost of a smile crossing his face. He said he knows every champion in this state. "Yes, sir." "Well then." Papa Walter stood walk to an old cedar chest in the corner and lifted the heavy lid. Out came a gleaming trophy, then another and another. Illinois state champion, regional champion 3 years running. A yellowed newspaper clipping with the headline, "Local prodigy defeats former world champion in exhibition." Derek's jaw dropped. You? You were really a champion?" "Not just state, son. I played nationals. Beat a few Grandmasters, too." But times were different back then. A young black man winning trophies wasn't what folks wanted to see. Doors slammed, scholarships disappeared. So I took the janitor's job to feed my family. The boy stared at the medals spread across the coffee table like treasure. "All this time you've been teaching me moves that beat champions. Every one," his grandfather said, a spark lighting his eyes. "But I never told you because I wanted you to love the game for itself, not for who I used to be." That night, Derek went to the principal. Ms. Alvarez listened closely, face growing tight as he recounted every word Coach Coleman had said. She called the coach to her office, grilled him in front of Derek, and when he tried to bluster about proper training, she cut him cold. "Every student gets a fair chance. Derek will play your captain this afternoon. If he wins, he's on the team." By 3 o'clock, the whole school seemed crammed into the chess room. Ethan sat at the board with a smug smile, Coach Coleman looming behind him like executioner. Derek set down his grandfather's battered wooden chess set pieces worn smooth from decades of play. "Good luck," Ethan sneered. "You'll need it," Derek said quietly. The game began. Ethan played with the confidence of someone spoon-fed theory since he could walk. Derek countered with patience, hearing Papa Walter's voice in his head. "Look for the move they don't expect. the one that changes everything. On move 22, Derek sacrificed his bishop. The crowd gasped. Thanks for the free piece, Ethan smirked. But 3 moves later, his smile slid off his face. The sacrifice had opened lines he couldn't defend. Derek's queen and knight swarmed like hawks, cutting down every escape. Check, Derek said, calm as stone. Check again 3 moves later. By move 38, Ethan tipped his king over. I resign. The room exploded. Kids who'd laughed at Derek were now whispering in shock. Ms. Alvarez declared, congratulations, Derek, you've earned your place. But Coach Coleman wasn't finished. He stuck Derek on board 6, gave him beginner puzzles, scheduled practices he forgot to tell him about. Derek came home discouraged, but Papa Walter just smiled, pulled a Russian Grandmaster's book off his shelf and said, while he's feeding you scraps, I'll feed you the real feast. The hottest fire forges the strongest steel. Weeks passed. Tournament day arrived. Jefferson faced polished private schools with gleaming uniforms and paid coaches. Derek sat across from one opponent after another and crushed them quick and ruthless, while the so-called stars of his own team fumbled. The principal noticed. The other kids noticed. Even Coach Coleman, pale and sweating, noticed. By the time they reached the state championship, Derek had become the heart of the team. Still, Coleman whispered before the final match, "Don't embarrass us. That boy you're facing is practically a professional." Across the board sat Vladimir Kuznetsov, son of a Russian Grandmaster. Calm, confident, undefeated. The auditorium swelled with reporters and spectators. In the back, janitors tried to escort an old man in coveralls out of the crowd until Ms. Alvarez stormed in and stopped them. Papa Walter stayed eyes locked on his grandson. The game unfolded like a movie. Vladimir pushed confidently with the Rye Lopez. Derek matched him move for move, remembering every late-night lesson in the basement. By move 35, he saw it, the crazy queen's sacrifice his grandfather had drilled into him. His heart pounded, but he slid the queen forward anyway. The room went silent. Gasps. Even Vladimir froze, calculating. 15 minutes later, he shook his head. This is very strong. I did not see it. By move 42, it was over. Vladimir extended his hand. Beautiful chess. Who is your coach? Derek turned eyes on the man in coveralls standing quietly at the back. My grandfather, he said. He's my Grandmaster. The auditorium erupted. Reporters swarmed asking about his training. Someone finally recognized Walter Johnson from old clippings, the forgotten champion of 1987. The crowd buzzed as phones lit up with his old games. Coach Coleman stood frozen, shame written all over his face. One reporter asked Derek, "What's the secret to your success?" He lifted the trophy, smiling wide. Talent doesn't care about your clothes, your wallet, or the color of your skin. It only cares how you move the pieces. And with that, a janitor's legacy dismissed for decades shined brighter than ever through his grandson. Now I've got to ask you, was Coach Coleman's behavior just prejudice dressed up as standards? How many kids like Derek never even get the chance to prove themselves because someone decides they don't look the part? Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever seen someone overlooked until they shocked everybody? Let's talk about it in the comments. Because stories like this deserve more than applause, they deserve change. And if this one hits you in the heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next story where justice finally gets the checkmate.